Pokémon Legends Arceus, released in early 2022 for the Nintendo Switch, marked a bold new direction for the Pokémon franchise. As a semi-open world action RPG set in the distant past of the Pokémon universe, it diverged sharply from the traditional formula the series had followed over 2 decades. Although it received a lot of criticism in several areas, Legends Arceus received widespread praise and admiration from both longtime fans and newcomers alike. People enjoy this game for several reasons: its fresh gameplay mechanics, immersive setting, satisfying progression system, and its reimagining of the Pokemon experience in a way that feels both nostalgic and innovative. Today we will be looking at 5 things I think Legends Arceus got right, along with some of the popular criticisms. Okay, let's begin. A breath of fresh air for gameplay. One of the main reasons people like Pokémon Legends Arceus is that it redefines how a Pokémon game is played. The game moves away from the traditional formula of random battles, gyms, and linear routes, instead focusing on real-time exploration and interaction with Pokémon in the overworld. Players can sneak up on Pokémon, throw Pokeballs without even entering a battle, or choose to engage in combat using a revamped turn-based system. This flexibility adds depth and excitement to catching and battling, making it feel more dynamic than ever before. The game's action elements, such as dodging aggressive Pokémon or throwing items in real time, provide a level of interactivity that was previously absent in mainline games. Fans appreciated how this system allowed them to feel more immersed in the world, giving them the sense of being an actual Pokemon researcher rather than just a passive trainer. The thrill of sneaking through tall grass to observe or capture a wild creature created new gameplay loops that were addicting and rewarding. I've always wanted a Pokemon game where it feels like you're living in the world, as if you're playing the anime itself. The freedom of movement in an expanded world and increased interaction with wild Pokemon and your Pokemon alike really sell it for me. I really hope they continue to expand on this idea going forward, not just for Legends games, but for mainline games as well. This new style may push away Pokemon purists who like the complexity of trainer battles, held items, abilities, and so forth, but the structure of the game is completely different since the focus is to research all the Pokemon and not be the most powerful trainer in the world. I for one think it's nice to have a Pokemon adventure that deviates from what we're used to. It helps us appreciate the series more overall as we welcome more variety into the mix. The crafting mechanic also didn't resonate with a lot of people, and having to do all the missions became repetitive and boring, which is valid. Perhaps if the game was a little more battle focused, then the missions would have more compelling motivations and rewards. Also, if the crafting options were expanded beyond the most basic items, people would have more interest. Additionally, not including breeding in the game felt weird after it being a series staple for so long. I mean, your Pokemon are being held in an open pasture. Like, thinking logically, it makes sense that breeding would just happen naturally, but Game Freak said nope. I think breeding would have been helpful, not so much for competitive reasons, but for research purposes. It's very odd that this was left out. Immersive and atmospheric world. Set in the ancient Hisui region, the past version of Sinnoh, Legends Arceus transports players to a time when humans and Pokemon coexisted with caution and reverence. I thought it was a really interesting concept that Pokemon were treated as these terrifying monsters that you have to be careful around before they became the lovable bundles of joy that we know them as today. The world design, inspired by historical Japan and nature documentaries, helps establish a unique tone that sets it apart from the rest of the series. There's no bustling cities or modern technology. Instead, the game emphasizes small settlements, handcrafted tools, and a more primitive relationship with Pokemon. It really does feel ancient, and I like that about this game. Players are tasked with building the region's first Pokédex, and this context grounds the gameplay with a real sense of purpose. The setting also contributes to the game's strong atmosphere. Each area of Hisui has distinct ecosystems and weather conditions that affect which Pokemon appear. The music, which incorporates minimalist instrumentation and natural ambiance, complements the quiet wonder of exploration. It reminds me a lot of Breath of the Wild's music, where there's not much of it going on, but just enough where it counts to set the tone of the world. Together, these elements make the game feel like a living world, one that encourages observation, patience, and discovery, which differs heavily from most Pokemon games, which I feel like is more of you need to go from point A to point B the whole time, versus this game where it's like just enjoy the ride from point A to point B, if that makes sense. Although Legends Arceus featured large open areas, some players felt that these spaces were too empty and lifeless. The world lacked environmental variety, and many zones felt repetitive after a while. The limited number of side activities and sparse towns and NPCs led to some describing the world as feeling bare bones or underdeveloped. But I also think in-game lore, it makes sense. People generally fear Pokemon, so it makes sense that they want to be far away from them. But from a gameplay standpoint, talking to like two people in a massive open area full of wild Pokemon is not as interesting as an area full of people, Pokemon, other things, so I get it. A lot of players also criticize how this world looks, that is, the graphics. They say the environments look flat, blurry, outdated, especially when you compare it to other games in the Nintendo Switch console. Textures had low resolution at times, and the game had limited draw distance, so objects and Pokemon would pop in. These are also valid complaints, though they didn't really bother me. I thought the gameplay was fun enough and distracting enough from these things. Also too, during my recent playthrough, the Switch 2 released, and I was able to swap over to the new console where these issues were a lot less apparent. I don't know if that helps any of you or if that'll make a difference, but it was a nice bonus in my opinion, if any of you were wondering. What I do like about how this game looks is that it's artistically beautiful. The way that the lighting and the shadows and the colors work all together really makes it look like you're looking at some sort of pastel painting. I really would like to see more of this in the series. Pokemon to me always has had art that really catches the eye, you know? And this one in particular really stands out for me. Strong sense of progression and reward. Another reason fans are drawn to Legends Arceus is its satisfying sense of progression. Unlike previous games, where the Pokédex simply required catching one of each species, this game introduces research tasks that require the players to observe Pokemon behaviors, feed them, witness certain moves, and catch them multiple times. These tasks provide a much more engaging and layered approach to completing the Pokédex. This system encourages players to interact with Pokemon in new ways and gives meaningful reasons to revisit areas. Every action contributes to the player's overall rank within the Galaxy Expedition team, unlocking new crafting recipes, areas, and story progress. This loop of exploring, researching, reporting, and leveling up offers a consistent feeling of accomplishment. Players feel invested not just in catching Pokemon, but in learning about them, which aligns well with the theme of early Pokemon-human relations. I do think this concept falls off a little towards the end of the game. Better motivations need to be in place at this point, because for me personally, it felt a tad grindy. And when you beat the main story, there really isn't a point to max out your rank. It's just something to do. But overall, I think this was a solid way to engage the player. A sense of discovery and adventure. People also love Legends Arceus because it captures a sense of mystery and adventure that had been missing from recent Pokemon titles. Instead of being guided through a series of routes and cities with a clearly defined path, players in Arceus are encouraged to explore at their own pace. The freedom to go wherever you want, complete tasks in different orders, and stumble upon rare or dangerous Pokemon contributes to a genuine feeling of adventure. There's moments when players encounter powerful alpha Pokemon, larger, stronger versions of species with glowing red eyes, that create thrilling, sometimes terrifying encounters. Players often have to assess risk, strategize escape routes, or return with stronger Pokemon to take them on later. These moments provide stakes and challenge, which have been lacking in more recent entries in the franchise. Additionally, the story, which deals with time rifts, divine Pokemon, and humanity's role in the natural world, gives the game a mythical and epic tone. The inclusion of Arceus, the literal god of the Pokemon universe, frames the game as a meaningful chapter in the franchise's lore. While some appreciated the narrative's shift in tone, others found the story to be predictable or underwhelming. Character development was also viewed as thin, with only a few major characters receiving meaningful arcs or dialogue. I think this is a fair point, being that this game takes place in the past and is on a bigger scale than most Pokemon games. They really had the chance to expand on characters and how events lead to occurrences in future Pokemon games. But I also think as fans, it was really fun to speculate and put together the puzzle pieces ourselves. All we can hope now is that future Legends games will improve on these things, you know? Nostalgia and innovation. Perhaps what players appreciate most is how Legends Arceus manages to balance nostalgia with innovation. The Hisui region is a precursor to Sinnoh, the setting of Pokémon Diamond and Pearl, and features many familiar Pokémon and locations in an earlier form. This backward glance offers longtime fans the joy of recognition, while the new mechanics breathe life into those memories with fresh context. Visiting future and popular locations like Jubilife City and Spirit Pillar in the past, and learning how these locations began to develop was such a wonderful experience. The game also features regional variants of classic Pokemon like Hisui and Growlithe, and Zoroark, which reinterpret beloved designs in creative ways, and that's always fun in my opinion. These changes highlight the franchise's evolution and show respect for its past while daring to try new things. For many players, Legends Arceus felt like the kind of imaginative reinvention the series needed. Not just more of the same, but a thoughtful response to years of feedback and hope for something more ambitious. I definitely think this was a step in the right direction, creating games that focus on ancient lore and also connecting it to the present and the future. I really hope they make more games like this, which was why at first it was kind of a shock to hear that the next Legends game doesn't take place in the past, but more on that for another video later. Pokémon Legends Arceus succeeded because it brought a new vision to a beloved franchise. Its action-oriented gameplay, immersive setting, rewarding progression, and a genuine sense of discovery all helped to reshape what a Pokémon game could be. While it may not be perfect, with some criticisms aimed at graphics or performance, it nonetheless rekindled excitement and curiosity that made people fall in love with Pokémon in the first place. For many, it wasn't just a game, but a reminder of why they cared about Pokémon at all. But what did you think of Legends Arceus? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know your thoughts down below. Now that I have a Switch 2, I'll be revisiting Pokemon Scarlet for my next video. I also have a few theory videos I'm working on that I'd like to share, so like and subscribe for more Pokemon content if you're interested. Okay, that's enough for me today. Thanks for watching. Peace.